Hey everyone, doing a different kind of replay here today. This time I'm going to be talking about the 279E. Now, why am I doing this video? It's because with the introduction of this vehicle over the past few years, we keep seeing more and more and more of them on the battlefield. So I figured I'd just give those who are sometimes unsure about how to deal with the vehicle just a couple of tips as to how I personally manage with it and why I don't really feel that threatened by them when we see them, especially in competitive gameplay. Now for this, obviously I don't have the 279E, so I see it here in my garage, but for the most part I'm going to be using TanksG, channeling my inner quickie baby here, I guess, and maybe pointing out some of the weak points, and then jumping back in the world of tanks so we can see what it looks like on a live model. Alright, moving into TanksG here, obviously the most interesting thing about this vehicle is that it doesn't have a lower plate. So the way I think about a 279E is I just pretend it's a 277 without a lower plate. So the lower plate is off limits. Now with a 277, you obviously wouldn't shoot the turret. Now it has cupolas, but like the 277, they're very small and often not the best option. The 277, the best place to shoot it is in the front here. Now here's the part where it gets a little bit tricky. So you can see how it slightly starts to angle back, and I don't want to go too in depth into this, which really means that this whole portion right here is off limits as well. You can see that it really starts to get high. However, when we move down, especially in the front, it starts to get more manageable, especially when we're shooting heat rounds, right? And this is 340 pen. This is not out of the realm of most tier 10 tanks like the IS-7, the 277, the Chieftain, all have fairly similar pen, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. So if we're looking at a 279E here, this is with heat obviously, this right here is a 93% chance right on this front plate. Now the mistake a lot of people make is that they just try and shoot these weak points. You don't need to. You can just shoot the very front of it. Now what I tend to do is I'll shoot a little bit up the tank because given dispersion values and some tanks are more inaccurate and all that stuff and RNG, you don't want it going into the tracks because if you hit anywhere down here, it's just, obviously it's not going to do anything, it's just tracks. There's no armor behind it, nothing. So this right here, shooting right on the front, and this kind of box area is the best place. If you start to go off to the side, you can see the further away you go, the more it drops off, and these cheek points are a big no-no, so don't shoot these triangles. This sort of trapezoid in the front is the best, however, you can see it drops off a little bit at the top, so again, I make it a habit to shoot the bottom. Now let's say it's angling at you, same as a 277 would. Let's get this pointed at us, maybe it's coming around a corner. Now, this right here, this is actually a little bit over angled. Let's look at a more realistic scenario. So let's say it's angling its armor at you, right? This right here, you can see from the rear that it's actually sloped downward, and it's a very weird kind of curved shape. So we're going to just ignore that. Again, what would you do on a 277 or an IS-7 for that matter? This, if you can see from the top, is kind of a boat-shaped, not boat-shaped hull, but almost a pike nose. It kind of has been shaved off the front. So obviously we're going to shoot the flattest point towards us, and look at that, 90% chance. Now I often find that this seems to be a little bit off, especially when the 279 is wiggling and all that. I find that I hit usually 1 out of every 2, sometimes 1 out of every 3, but never less than that. It's always at least 1 out of 3 shots, and with a bunch of tanks shooting at it, you can take care of it. Again, turret is off limits. I really wouldn't even bother trying to shoot these unless the tank is hulled down, but that's pretty obvious. So again, we're looking right in this sort of diamond-shaped area, but again, the closer the turret and the closer the tracks we get, the harder it gets. So again, right here. Now, if it's over angling at you, this right here gets pretty weak. It's only a 100mm plate, and this is a great thing to be shooting, especially if you have to shoot up at it. It doesn't have a lot of gun depression, so let's see, let's look at it here as it's trying to. Let's say it's trying to come over a ridgeline. You're not going to pen this. You're just not. And there's no lower plate for you to shoot, which kind of makes it awkward. And I often find myself, as a 279 is coming over, looking here to shoot. And obviously, you're not going to pen it. especially if you're shooting heat. What you need to go to is this plate, which is now perfectly angled towards you. So any 279 pushing a ridge line, you're below it, maybe you're underneath it. This is a great place to be shooting. Again, just avoid the turret unless it's hull down. I cannot stress that enough. If it's below you, shoot the side plates. If you're head on or on top of it, just shoot the front plate. Alright? Name of the game, as close to the tracks as you can without hitting the tracks, and don't touch the turret. Let's look at it in the live model now. So obviously, if we're looking at it again, or hold down, or it's right in front of us, an easy way to gauge where you want to shoot is you can see this little bar right here. This is what I use personally, and I don't shoot above that when it's held down. I will just shoot this rectangle right here. This is what I was talking about. You can shoot a little bit over, however, just stay within the box. It's a big enough target. If we're off to the right, obviously you can kind of see where these ropes are, kind of in between this cable and this area. It's a little bit odd because of the amount of stuff that's on it, but you can see this area. This is what I look for. Other side, obviously similar story going on here. And looking at the rear, or looking at it coming above us, it's this big plate right in this area. This is all easy stuff to pen, not a problem. Obviously, if you get the rear, not a big issue. Just remember to aim higher. Don't auto-aim on the back of this thing, because sometimes it'll go into the tracks, and we really don't want that. If it's hold down, your only choice is to shoot this. However, I would recommend just breaking contact at that point. Hold off, make the thing come around the corner. We won't deal with it. It's crucial that in dogfights we take these things out as quickly as possible, because not only do they have great armor, but they have decent DPM as well, and that rate of fire with 440 alpha means they can really spread their damage around. Base, you can see it's got a 10-second reload, and you can get that down easily, I believe, to 8 seconds or even below, which means it'll very quickly start to wipe out all those one-shot tanks. I find a lot of people just ignoring the thing because they don't know how to pen it. Hopefully this video helps you, and if you have any questions, leave comments, find me in TeamSpeak, send me an email, you have my information, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video. See ya!